This is hilarious, man. The Montreal Canadiens played a game yesterday against the Ottawa Senators. They lost. And they play today against the Toronto Maple Leafs. They have a chance to clinch a playoff spot with the win today, or is it the regulation win today? It was the regulation win yesterday. Let's take a look at it here. Yeah, so if the Montreal Canadiens beat Toronto in regulation, their playoff odds go up to 100%. They will clinch. That's not even the craziest story for today, though. Because all throughout the week, we've been making videos about Ivan Demidov, the hottest prospect on the market who has found himself in the Canadiens organization. I get it, there are going to be some folks in the comments that heckle and say, Lego, you're just spamming the Ivan Demidov videos. Why are you going out there and talking about this guy so much? Why don't you make videos about other things? And the answer to that is very simple. Do you see the amount of views that these videos get? I'm not going to pretend that making money is not a primary motivation for this, but also it's like, this is literally the hottest topic in the entire Montreal Canadiens landscape, and everybody is eating up everything that is said or mentioned in regards to this player. Everybody is interested in the Demidov story, and how he's going to make his debut for the Habs. Unfortunately, though, it's not going to happen today against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was already confirmed by Marty St. Louis yesterday that Demidov will not play today against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's going to be Jakub Dobeš in net, so going to be interesting to see how he fares against a super hot fire Nick Robertson, Austin Matthews, and the like. But today we're talking about some extra things regarding Ivan Demidov and his transition into North America. I'm going to leave a link in the description to this article on tvasports.ca. It's Renaud Lavoie. It's what he said on the JIC show. It's everything we need to have this conversation. Let's go out there and read this piece on TVA Sports from yesterday. Ivan Demidov presented on Monday. Ivan Demidov is in Toronto and is expected to meet his new Montreal Canadiens teammates there after Friday night's game in Ottawa. It is very important that he gets acclimated a little to the jet lag, reporter Renaud Lavoie said on JIC. Now, that also is something that I think is an underrated part of the conversation. We don't normally hear too much about this because, quite frankly, I'd say that usually when it comes to players and being in North America versus being in Europe, I feel like we just usually see guys make the transition and then they play in the AHL or something, right? Maybe it takes a few days, maybe it doesn't, but for Ivan Demidov's case, it has taken him a little bit longer than we might have been expecting for him to fully make the transition into North America. Part of that was because of the holdups with his work permit and his visa, which included him sticking around in Turkey for an extended amount of time. He wasn't just in and out as some sort of a stopover. Nah, he was there in a multiple-day process to get his work permit confirmed and finalized. And of course, we already saw what happened when he made the flight over to Toronto. The #1 tracked flight in the world at that point. It was ridiculous. Some random-ass plane from Istanbul to YYZ. And it's all Canadiens fans going out there and tracking it. Some folks even tracking him down at the airport. Jet lag is something that I think is not entirely irrelevant to this conversation, especially when it's like, okay, for some players, usually they make that transition really quickly, normally because they're already under contract with their NHL teams and they just get loaned out. For Ivan Demidov, he didn't have a Montreal Canadiens contract before last week. And so because he took a little bit longer to get signed, I assume that's one of the main contributors as to why he didn't have a work permit ready right away and why he wasn't really called up as soon as he could have been. Other players and other prospects who already have NHL contracts with their teams but are playing in Europe, they probably have their work permits and stuff already sorted out before their seasons conclude in the playoffs of their European leagues, and then they're allowed to come over straight over to the AHL or something like that. Demidov, of course, we recognize he's not going to do that. He's not going to go to the AHL, but I think it is an underrated aspect to this conversation here. He had to spend multiple days just waiting for that work permit, and the time difference didn't really change for him up until his flight to YYZ. Demidov, who arrived in Canada Thursday night, is not expected to speak to the media Saturday. At most, he might lace up his skates during an optional morning skate a few hours before the game against the Leafs. Everything indicates that it'll be Monday that Kent Hughes will meet with the media with Ivan Demidov, speculates Renaud Lavoie, before adding that the stars are aligning for the promising Russian forward to make his debut in the blue, white, and red uniform this evening against the Chicago Blackhawks at the Bell Center. Everyone would dream of seeing him play Toronto in tomorrow's game, but I don't think that'll be a possibility, says Renaud Lavoie. And so with that in mind, it does seem like Monday is the day that we will be waiting for. Today could be a practice day, just kind of getting into transitioning to the NHL environment. Tomorrow could be expanding upon that even more. And then Monday, probably going to be press conference day. You know, it's a regular old weekday. Maybe some people don't want to do some normal work on Sunday, so Monday, get the reporters at the Bell Center. The team's back, hot and ready to go, facing off against Connor Bedard in the second last game of the year, and Ivan Demidov will make his NHL debut. And as we had spoken about with Patrik Laine and his very strange comments earlier in today's show, there is going to be a learning curve here. I'm not going to say that Laine's comments were wrong per se, it's just the tonality that is used in that language is so different from what we've been seeing out of everybody else in the Montreal bubble. But a game against Chicago is a great opportunity for Demidov to get his feet under him, hopefully get used to the NHL game at NHL speeds, and just be able to make that quick adjustment. I think he's smart enough to be able to do effective things, especially in a game against Chicago. The Canadiens do have the Hurricanes in their final game of the season, though, so that will be an even bigger test, assuming Ivan Demidov plays in that game on... When is the Canadiens' final game of the season? Is it Wednesday or Thursday? Something like that. But Ivan Demidov playing off against a great team in Carolina and a very, very bad team in Chicago makes for some good nuance and probably allows him to get the feel for, oh yeah, okay, this is one of the worst teams in the league we're playing, and then this is one of the better teams in Carolina. A lot faster, a lot quicker, a lot more poised and structured in the way they play. Having Demidov play off against a Rod Brind'Amour team is going to be really interesting. I want to see how he adjusts to that, as Patrik Laine indicated he will need to. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below about this extra information on Demidov, how he's not going to be playing against the Toronto Maple Leafs, how he probably will get the Monday game against Chicago, as well as the press conferences from Kent Hughes. I am super interested in hearing what Hughes will go out there and say in the presser, but of course, save the presser for Monday. Let the media have their days off on Saturday and Sunday. Don't put too much stress on the folks that will be covering the playoff run, as the Canadiens hope to secure their spot in the Stanley Cup Playoffs with a regulation win today against Toronto. Although it's the second half of a back-to-back, it's not really too likely. We'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.